I was stirring cinnamon into my coffee when the door slammed open behind me. Silence followed. Logan Barrett, the shiny new CEO of Halston Stratworks, strode in like the office air belonged to him. No hello, no eye contact. Just four clipped words. Danica, my office. Now. No context, no decency. Just a command sharp enough to slice through 14 years of sweat sacrifice and results. My pulse thudded in my ears, but I followed him. My low heels striking the polished tile like a countdown. His office looked like something out of a real estate billionaire's Instagram. Granite desk, designer chairs, not a single photo of the team. Logan didn't sit. Neither did I. He turned. His eyes were like slate. You're fired. 49 seconds. That's all it took to erase my 14-year career. My throat closed, but I didn't let it show. Then came the twist. We need new energy, not relics from the past. Relic. I was 45, not ancient, not obsolete. I was the one who launched the enterprise division. I built our flagship onboarding program. I secured our largest 5 clients we still relied on. I trained the very team sitting behind those glass partitions. But none of that mattered. Not to him. Because Logan wasn't a leader, he was legacy. He hadn't earned anything. He was just the son of William Barrett, the founder. And now that William was stepping back, Logan thought a last name could substitute for leadership. It doesn't. Power handed down is fragile. Mine was earned. With missed birthdays, midnight flights, and results that kept this place alive. I wanted to lash out. Instead, I smiled. Calm, measured. Sharp enough to cut through his entitlement. Understood. He thought he'd won. But he had no idea what he'd just lost. I said softly. Then with every ounce of dignity I still carried, I added, "Have a great day, Logan." And I turned my back on him before he could see the tremble in my hands. Humiliation burned behind my ribs, but not as hot as the thought that repeated in my mind like a pulse. He thinks this is over. He has no idea what he's just started. The 2-lane stretch of highway ahead looked endless, but I barely saw it. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles ached, my jaw clenched. 14 years gone in under a minute. That's how fast Logan Barrett erased me. I'd given Halston Stratworks more than time. I gave it my life. Vacations canceled in airport terminals. Birthdays missed. Holidays spent muted on conference calls pretending I didn't hear my daughter asking why mommy was always working. I stayed through 2 CFO overhauls, a leadership scandal, and a data breach that nearly ruined us. And during it all, I delivered. While Logan was still partying through his master's program in London, I was closing the Onyx partnership that kept our doors open during Q2 collapse. But none of that mattered. Not to him. This morning, he stood there like some crown prince of disruption, smirking like he was doing me a favor by cutting me loose. His words still echoed in my head, slashing through the soft hum of my engine. We need people who can evolve. You can't. Can't evolve. I built the framework he now claims as next-gen strategy. And then it hit me hard and clean. The Onyx. The $2.3 billion transatlantic integration I'd led from napkin sketch to near sign-off. The cultural protocols, the licensing workaround, the translation memorandums, all mine. In the final briefing Friday morning. But I was no longer there. He fired the only person who knew how to close it. And now, Logan Barrett was on his own. Good luck, Prince. You're going to need it. My breath hitched. Did Logan even know what that contract said? Did he understand the licensing triggers I personally negotiated after the Kaizen breach 3 years ago? I almost laughed. Bitter. Hollow. There was no way he read it. I would have bet every bonus I ever deferred that he hadn't read a single page. But that didn't comfort me. It didn't numb the sting of being discarded like a used passcode. What it did was shift something. Just enough for the grief to cool into something far more precise. Clarity. He thought he buried me with one sentence. Thought a pink slip would end me. But as the Denver skyline appeared through the windshield, one truth clicked into place. Like a lock sliding shut, Logan Barrett had just detonated his own career, and he didn't even know it. Morning light slashed through the blinds of my apartment, cold and uninvited. I sat cross-legged on the couch in leggings and a stretched-out sweater, untouched coffee cooling beside me. My phone buzzed. Then again, I ignored it. Each notification felt like a digital echo. Unemployed, irrelevant, replaced, until a name lit the screen that pulled me back into my own skin. William Barrett, Logan's father, the founder, the man who hired me after one 10-minute meeting back when my resume was still stapled. I froze. Then I answered. His voice boomed through the speaker, measured, but laced with fire. Danica, what the hell happened? I swallowed. Logan fired me yesterday. Silence, the kind that makes air feel heavy. Then the shuffle of papers, a muted thump. His voice again lower now. Dangerous. He did what Saeed. I wasn't evolving fast enough, I replied. The bitterness cracked through before I could help it. William exhaled like a man holding back thunder. Danica, stay available. This isn't over. No, it wasn't. Not even close. Did he even read your contract? My brow furrowed. What do you mean? William didn't answer right away. I heard shuffling. Then the dull click of a drawer sliding open like he was digging through a file cabinet for live ammunition. When he finally spoke again, his words sliced clean through the fog in my brain. Onyx. The deal closes this Friday. Correct, yes, I said cautiously. Final meeting's scheduled for 11. He didn't hesitate. There's a key personnel clause in that contract. You're the only authorized negotiator. My pulse stalled. Legally, ethically, logistically, you're the lock, Danica. Without you, that $2.3 billion deal doesn't just stall, it collapses. I shot upright, the mug sloshing on the table. Wait. You're saying I'm saying Logan made a catastrophic mistake. His voice turned steely. And if Onyx catches even a whiff of instability, they'll vanish. No calls. No second chances. Just gone. I could barely hear him over the roar in my ears. The shame of yesterday cracked beneath the weight of a different force leverage. He wasn't finished. I need you, Danica. The company needs you. My eyes dropped to the untouched mug, now stained at the rim. A bitter smile tugged at my lips. Yesterday, Logan believed he'd taken everything from me. Today, I held the pin to the grenade he didn't even know he'd swallowed. I'll consider it, I said, voice even, calm for the first time in 24 hours. Because the power had shifted. And this time, it was mine. The first call came at 9:12 a.m. I let it buzz against the table. Then came another. And another. By the fifth, I stopped checking the name. The sound had faded into the static hum of my apartment. I sat cross-legged in yesterday's sweater and lifted the mug to my lips. The coffee was cold, but it tasted like control. The coffee had gone cold hours ago. Bitter, flat. But I drank it anyway. Each buzz from my phone was just a new verse in a familiar song. Panic had found its way into Halston Stratworks. The screen flashed names like a scrolling credits reel of corporate regret. Logan Barrett, HR, legal, strategy, even the receptionist. The same people who couldn't meet my eyes as I walked out yesterday. Now it seemed they believed the company couldn't breathe without me. I didn't answer. If you believe this wasn't just the end, but the beginning of something bigger, hit subscribe and stay with me. The next move is already in motion. I let the phone rest on the arm of the couch and listened. Each vibration was another beat in a rhythm I was finally in control of. Yesterday, I left that building with humiliation weighing down my spine. Today, that weight was gone, burned off by something quieter, heavier, power. Every missed call confirmed what William had told me that morning. My name wasn't just on the contract. It was the hinge holding a $2.3 billion door in place. Without me, it stayed sealed. I leaned back, eyes closed, letting the irony settle in. Logan had wanted a spectacle, firing me in front of his frosted glass command center like he was a king declaring war. He wanted to prove he could swing an axe. Now, That axe was spinning through the air and he was realizing too late that it was aimed straight at him. Another buzz. Then another. A voicemail icon appeared. I tapped it not to respond, just to hear the fear. Danica, hi. Listen about yesterday. There's been a miscommunication. We really need you back today. It's urgent. Please call me. No apology, not even close. Just fear in a tailored suit. I smiled. Slow, controlled, satisfaction blooming like sunlight after a long storm. Then the text came. Not from Logan, not from HR, from Nicole in legal. You won't believe this. William just ripped Logan apart in front of the exec board. I mean, scorched earth. I stared at the message, and for the first time in days, laughed. A soft laugh escaped my throat. Of course, William had torn into him. He wasn't the kind of man to let incompetence slide, especially when that incompetence shared his last name. I set my phone down gently, almost like it mattered. Then I whispered to the empty room, game on. By the time I finished my second cup of lukewarm coffee, my decision was made. Not emotional, not reactive, not the desperate, scrambled response Logan expected when he humiliated me. No, this was deliberate, measured. A move that would set the tone for everything that followed. William's voice echoed in my mind. You're the lock. And if I was the lock, then I'd decide who got the key. I called him back. Calm. Even. Just enough steel in my voice to say I wasn't the same woman who walked out that glass door. I'll return, I said, but on my terms. He didn't argue. Not even a pause. That told me everything I needed to know about how desperate Halston Stratworks had become overnight. Within an hour, my inbox held a revised agreement. Full autonomy over the Vionics deal. Zero interference from Logan. All terms in writing. I signed without fanfare. Because real power, it doesn't shout. It whispers. Commands. And moves quietly. When I arrived back at Halston later that afternoon, I didn't use the employee entrance. I walked through the front lobby, deliberately. Eyes tracked me the moment the glass doors swung open. Conversations froze. The hum of the building dropped like a fuse had been pulled. They'd all seen me leave yesterday. But today, I wasn't crawling back. I was walking in on my terms. Nicole looked up from the second-floor balcony and caught my eye. Her smile said what we both knew. You're not done. I nodded. Once, just as the front desk receptionist stood so fast her chair shrieked backward. Ms. Hale, she breathed. Welcome back. Welcome back, Ms. Hale. Mr. Barrett is expecting you. The receptionist's voice was soft, almost reverent. I followed her down the hall, my heels tapping across the polished stone tile like a metronome counting down to something inevitable. The walls, glass, steel, and gloss reflected fragments of me as we passed. I looked sharper than I had yesterday. Not harder, just clearer. Like someone who finally knew the weight of her worth. William was already waiting by the doorway to his office. No handshake. Just a nod as he opened the door and gestured me in. That's when I saw him. Logan. Standing rigid near the window, jaw-locked eyes fixed on his phone like it could shield him from the reality unraveling around him. He didn't look up, and I didn't offer a glance, because today wasn't about him. It was about me, and the deal that would ensure he never forgot why the company needed me more than it ever needed him. William spoke first. Calm, measured, follow my lead, or stay out of the way. The words weren't meant for me. They were aimed squarely at the son who had mistaken a last name for leadership. The boardroom smelled faintly of ambition and fresh leather. Sunlight poured in through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting streaks across the long mahogany table, where the Kingswell contract lay. Waiting every clause, a memory, every margin, a scar. I let my fingers brush the edge of the final page. Then the glass doors slid open. The Kingswell delegation entered like a wave of precision, sleek, suits-focused expressions. At their center, Kareem Al-Sayed, a man who didn't smile unless it was earned. I stood calm and steady, and greeted him not in English but fluent Arabic. Marhaban, Mr. Al-Sayed. Shukran for coming. His brow arched slightly. Then, rare as gold, he smiled. Respect, he replied in perfect English. Goes a long way. And just like that, the energy in the room shifted. From tension to trust. We took our seats. The room belonged to me now. The negotiation unfolded like a dance I choreographed months ago. Every concern preempted. Every objection neutralized before it fully surfaced. My words were precise. My tone controlled, respectful, culturally attuned. I navigated every nuance with ease, shifting between strategy and empathy like it was instinct. I watched skepticism dissolve into confidence, measured nods, quiet affirmations, notes scribbled without pushback. Across the glass wall, I caught movement, a flicker in my periphery. Logan, pacing like a cornered animal, jaw-clenched fists flexing. He wasn't allowed in. Security had strict orders. The irony wasn't lost on me. Yesterday, he was the executioner. Today, just a sideline witness, forced to watch the company he thought he ruled bend quietly beneath my fingertips. At the head of the table, Kareem Al-Sayed leaned back, his gold pen poised above the final signature line. He glanced at me. It seems he said we have an agreement. The sound of that pen gliding across the page was more than a signature. It was redemption. A $2 $3 billion triumph anchored by my name in the margins, even if no one ever printed it in a headline. As the final document slid into the leather folio, the glass door shuddered violently. Logan's palm had slammed against it. His face was flushed, furious, desperate. He shouted something, but the wall muted his voice. Didn't matter. Desperation has a tone all its own. William turned to face him, voice even, but edged with steel. This is what leadership looks like. Logan froze. I gathered the documents and slipped them into my briefcase. No rush, no smirk. Just control. When I left that boardroom, I didn't glance his way. Because power, real power, doesn't need to perform. It just exists. 2 days later, the office felt lighter. My team congratulated me in hushed, reverent tones. Emails trickled in lifesaver legend thank you. Even William sent a handwritten note. Everything looked calm, victorious. But just beneath the surface, I could feel it. The next wave was coming, but calm has a way of hiding cracks. And that morning, I felt them forming beneath me. It started at 8:47 a.m. An international number flashed on my phone. I recognized the country code before I even picked up. Vionics. My stomach tightened. I answered anyway. Danica. Kareem Al-Sayed's voice was clipped. Urgent. We received an email from you this morning. The financial terms, they don't match what we signed. Can you explain? For a heartbeat. The room shifted. What email, I asked, sitting straighter. Time-stamped at 6:03 a.m. Signed Danica Hale. Revised schedules. Altered pricing. It bears your email signature. Then he read the message aloud. My skin prickled. I hadn't written any of it. I didn't send that, I said evenly, though my heart was racing. Please disregard it. I'll send written clarification immediately. See that you do? He replied and hung up. I sat frozen. 1, fraudulent email might be a fluke. 2, that was strategy. And in my world, perception outranked truth. Even a whisper of carelessness could rip apart the deal I just cemented. I called IT. By 9:30 a.m., Shane, the senior systems analyst, was in my office. Eyes sharp, jaw clenched. He connected to my machine, fingers flying across the keys. 10 minutes later, he turned to me. Whoever sent that email used your login. I blinked. So? A hack. He shook his head. No external breach. No remote access. No flags. The signal trace points to an internal terminal. I swallowed. Inside the building. Shared desk near the executive wing. He closed his laptop slowly. We're tracking access logs now. When he left, silence pooled around me like water in a sinking room. This wasn't random. It wasn't coincidence. Someone inside Halston Stratworks wanted me to look sloppy. To shake the confidence Kareem had just placed in me. to make William Barrett question everything. And deep down, I already knew. This wasn't sabotage by chance. It was personal, and someone was betting I'd crack. But they forgot one thing. I don't break. I recalibrate. I already knew whose shadow was behind this. Logan Barrett hadn't vanished after his public humiliation. Men like him don't disappear. They regroup. They calculate. They wait. And now it seemed he was done waiting. I flipped open a fresh notebook, wrote the time in bold ink across the top of the page. 9:52 a.m. One entry. One act of war. This wasn't over. Not even close. As I passed the glass-walled strategy room, low voices spilled into the hallway. I gripped the folder in my hand tighter. I didn't mean to stop. I never eavesdrop. But then I heard it. Logan's voice. Sharp. Controlled. Just loud enough to slice through the professional murmur around him. "She's unstable," he said. "We need to start planning her exit." My breath caught. My body went still. The world tunneled into that moment, those words bouncing like shrapnel between steel and glass. She's aggressive, erratic. After the Vionics signing, I hoped she'd settle. But it's clear now she's a liability. Liability. The word hit harder than any accusation. He wasn't just undermining my authority, he was going after my credibility. The very thing I'd poured years into building. Late-night calls, fires put out, deals resurrected. None of it mattered if he framed the narrative first. And in the corporate world, perception travels faster than truth. I gripped the folder so tightly the corner cut into my skin. A thin sting, a necessary grounding. For the first time since reclaiming control, I felt it doubt. Could I withstand a smear campaign? Especially one seated by the founder's son. I backed away from the glass, slipping silently into a nearby office. I shut the door. The air felt thinner here. The desk cold beneath my hands. My pulse drummed loud in my ears as I forced myself to breathe. But even as fear crept in, something else stirred beneath it. Resolve. If Logan wanted a war of perception, I'd give him one. But on my terms. It wasn't just fear rippling through me. It was rage coiled so tight it scorched. I had clawed my way back from a public dismissal. Closed the Vionics deal, turned humiliation into leverage. And yet here I was, one whispered lie away from losing it all. A soft knock at the office door pulled me from the storm in my head. I turned. David Ross, head of internal audit. Face unreadable. He stepped inside, closing the door gently behind him. "We traced the anomalies," he said. My stomach pitched, and he held my gaze, voice low and deliberate. "They linked to Logan's executive assistant's terminal." Silence stretched like piano wire between us. Then, something inside me clicked. Not panic precision. Logan wasn't just pushing rumors. He was engineering sabotage. And now, I had proof. The boardroom felt colder than usual, steel and glass beneath a dull Denver sky. Everything about it radiated tension. At the far end sat William Barrett. Back straight, hands resting on a folder, thick with consequences. Across from him lounged Logan. All casual entitlement, like this was just another status meeting. He didn't know I was coming. I waited until the final seat slid into place before stepping through the door. Heads turned. Logan's smirk faltered. His confusion curdled into something darker. "She's not on the audit committee," he snapped. William didn't blink. "She's here at my request." Silence. Surgical. I walked to the seat beside David and laid my folder down. Not thick, just enough. Precise. Lethal. I didn't glance at Logan. Not yet. Instead, I met William's gaze with quiet resolve while the inferno churned behind my sternum. David cleared his throat. "Our review uncovered irregularities, fabricated emails, altered credentials, internal misuse of authorized access." He turned a page. All traced back to Logan's office. This wasn't just a rebuttal, it was reversal. And Logan, he had no script for this, just consequences, finally catching up. David tapped the screen behind him. A timeline appeared clean, clinical, peppered with red flags. Each irregularity traces back to one login cluster, he said. He clicked once. The pattern appeared. Logan Barrett's executive assistant account. Logan laughed sharp hollow. That's ridiculous. Anyone could have stopped. William's voice cut through the room like gravel dragged across steel. Don't insult the board's intelligence. The room held its breath. I finally turned to face Logan, letting every ounce of fire settle behind my eyes. You called me unstable, I said, voice soft but deadly. Erratic. A liability. I leaned forward. Cool. Controlled. My words cold enough to freeze glass. But tell me, Logan, what does it make you when you sabotage your own company to destroy one person? His face paled, but pride clung to him like a bad habit. You have no proof I ordered anything, he snapped. David's finger hovered above the control. Click. The next slide appeared. An email thread. Timestamps. Internal routing. Clear directives. Make her look disorganized. Use her login. Kingswell needs to doubt her. Logan Barrett. In his own words. The color drained from his face like ink dropped in water. William stood. Every movement deliberate. Heavy. When he spoke, it cracked through the silence like a gavel. You're suspended. Effective immediately. No appeal, no severance, no title. Logan's mouth opened, but nothing came out. For the first time since he inherited the office, silence claimed him. I gathered my folder, back straight, pulse steady. This wasn't revenge. This was justice measured, executed, undeniable. As I stepped out of the room, a strange stillness settled in my chest. Not relief, not pride. Completion. I hadn't just weathered the storm. I'd become it. The boardroom was nearly empty now. Just the hum of the vents and the ghost of a name that once echoed through power. Logan Barrett was gone, and for the first time in weeks, I could breathe. But relief, I've learned, doesn't arrive like a thunderclap. It doesn't crash through the walls with fireworks. It seeps in, quiet, gradual. A few slow breaths at a time until suddenly you realize you're not holding your lungs hostage anymore. William Barrett sat at the head of the boardroom table, his posture slightly slackened for once, but his eyes still sharp as flint. In front of him rested a single folder, squared perfectly against the polished oak, as if order on the surface could redeem the chaos we just navigated. He gestured to the chair across from him. I've spent the last 24 hours thinking about the future, he said, his tone stripped of politics. This company doesn't just need new leadership. It needs a new center. He paused. Not just processes, culture, accountability. Then he pushed the folder toward me. I opened it. And there, it was succinct, unembellished. Director of Client Strategy reporting directly to the CEO. Full authority to restructure, to rebuild, to lead. I stared for a long moment, not at the title, but at what it meant. The dismissal, the sabotage, the long nights in silence, the moment Logan tried to erase me in front of the people I once mentored. This wasn't just a promotion. It was an acknowledgement. I'll accept, I said, my voice calm, edged with steel. But if I do, I want real change. No more silence. No more looking the other way when lines are crossed. William's jaw flexed, then slowly he nodded. You have my word. I signed. No fanfare, just a steady hand. Later, I stood alone outside my new office. A new wing, new title, new future. A temporary nameplate gleamed Danica Hale, Director of Client Strategy. I touched the cool metal and realized the real victory wasn't what I'd gained. It was what I refused to let be taken, because silence is not weakness. It's strategy. When wielded right, it becomes a weapon, and I had learned exactly how to use it. I hadn't begged when they tried to erase me. I hadn't folded when they painted me unstable. And in a world that often mistakes volume for power, the truth my quiet refusal to break was the loudest victory I'd ever claimed. Still, as I turned the handle and stepped into my new office, the air felt different, clearer, but not weightless. There was a trace of something, an aftertaste of what had come before. Because wars end, yes, but battles. They have long memories, and I was ready for every single one of them. This journey taught me something I wish I'd known. Sooner silence is not surrender. Walking away isn't weakness. It's choosing dignity over spectacle. For too many years, I believed loyalty would protect me. I worked the late shifts, gave up holidays, stayed quiet when I should have challenged louder voices, all because I thought that's what success required. But here's what's real. They can take your title, strip your name from the org chart, but your worth that only disappears if you hand it over. So when life corners you, when someone like Logan Barrett writes you off, remember this: you are not their version of you. You are smarter than their spin, stronger than their schemes, and far more resilient than they ever gave you credit for. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's a quiet decision made behind closed doors when no one's watching where you decide, I will not bend. If this story resonates with you, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Your voice matters. Hit that like button if you've ever had to stand your ground. And share this story with someone who needs a reminder. You are not powerless. If you've ever been underestimated, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment. Tell me what part of this story hit home. Your voice matters more than you know. And if you stood tall when they expected you to crumble, I see you. We're cut from the same steel. My journey wasn't just about reclaiming a title. It was about proving that quiet resolve can shake the walls of power. So don't let anyone write your story for you. Hit like, share this with someone who needs it, and subscribe, because together we rise and we do not break.